Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. It's been about 2 weeks since the last vlog. I've been a little bit busy. It is fall. It's September 23rd, my brother's birthday actually, and I just want to show you what's going on in the garden. The garden is doing extremely well. I'm going to go to all the different areas in the garden. It's going to be a little bit of a long video, give you a lot of tips, tricks, and talk about planning for next year, setting up cold frames. This area was set up in the spring. Because the cool weather's rolling in now, we're getting 50-degree nights. It's all springing back. Clay pots are hard to work with because they do really pull the water out of the soil. So if you're using clay pots, you really just have to be able to keep up on the watering. But for the fall, this is going to look beautiful. Right in here is my kitchen garden. Strawberries, raspberries are coming in like crazy. They'll be spread out through the garden come spring, maybe later this fall. Actually, with this crazy weather, I'll probably be moving a lot of this late October, November. Here's the area. Let me spin around and get at the shadow out here. This was one of the later gardens I put in, mix of purple coneflower right back there. My perennials, you can see thyme, columbine. That is a goji berry bush against the fence. So keeping up the edible idea, putting in lots of herbs, fruit vines, fruit bushes, another goji berry. Here is a tomato that is doing really well, that's seeded itself. If you ever wonder what happens if you let a tomato go, it's going to grow just like that. It'll sprawl across the ground. It's producing fruit, and I've actually been eating off of it. Oregano. You can really pack in your herbs, you can put in fruit plants, fruit bushes, all kinds of different things into your beds that you might typically just put flowers in. So you can have a garden throughout your entire property, really. Have a grapevine in here. I think this is the Concord. And I wanted to show you the space in here because I can't even remember. This is the third or fourth wave of tomatoes. We can just step out of our side door, come down the deck, and we can pick this stuff for garden salads, but it's doing really well. We are getting into the 50s at nights, but the tomatoes are still producing. Disease came to my garden, but I managed it by really staying on the spraying. Swiss chard. This was kale that was attacked by worms, basically caterpillars. I sheared off all the leaves. About 3 weeks later, coming back full. It looked a little bit like this when I sheared it off. That looked just like this until Tucker, the grand dog, came and just chewed the tops off. But kale is extremely resilient. If you have white flies, caterpillars, problems, strip the leaves down. When the cool weather starts coming in, they're going to spring back and the disease and problems will be gone. Okay, let's head over to the other side. The whole perennial and butterfly area is coming back strong from August heat with the cool weather. All the leaves are coming back onto the milkweed. They've been eaten off by different caterpillars and stuff, which is the goal. Going to be dropping in another fruit tree. That's an apricot. I want to come around this side. Oh, take a look at this guy. This looks like a prehistoric plant. Anybody know what it is? That's artichoke. So they went in this year. Next year I should get some artichokes. Using the cages I've talked about before to keep the deer away. Overbought. These were on sale. They're going to get like 30 feet tall. I don't have any place for them, so I'm going to give them away. Wanted to show you this plant in here. You can see there's a butterfly on it. It's different than the butterfly bush. When I went to Home Depot, this was just covered in actually honeybees, and if I had a memory, I would be dangerous. But this is what it is. Oh, that's not it. That's the sand cherry. Here we go. Here we go. I can't even pronounce that. But it looks similar to the butterfly bush right over there. But the honeybees were absolutely loving this. So of course I had to pick up a couple of them. And I'm going to put them either in here or maybe around the house. But I'm going to continue really putting in plants that are friendly to butterflies, to bees, and to pollinators. Here's an area. I was just watering this morning, got hose everywhere. So this area I pretty much got set up maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Just want to show you what's going on. This is all double shredded hardwood mulch. There's no soil mixed in here. And over the next year, this will break down nicely. It'll be sort of like the Back to Eden gardening where they use a lot of wood chips. And as the wood chips break down, they become great soil for your plants. So I have beets, cilantro, lettuce, chives in there, and I'm really sustaining this because it's the first time that the plants are going in there with a water-soluble fertilizer, a low NP and K. They get a drink about every week, and that's because this is really fresh shredded hardwood, double shredded hardwood. Well, let me just show you. If you're going to do something like this, you want the double shredded. It's really ground up so it breaks down quickly and it's nice for the root system. You don't want to use big wood chips here. The nitrogen in the water-soluble fertilizer will take care of these plants while this breaks down over the year. Next year, I'll be able to probably plant directly in here, use less fertilizer, and I will keep adding in double shredded hardwood, and this is going to be a great place for my plants to grow. Here's a cattle panel. That I thought I would be putting in about now, with the garden dying out, you know, early September like it normally does, but that hasn't happened yet. But this is going to replace a lot of my trellises there. I'll talk about that in future videos. Right in here, these are basically galvanized steel. Let's see if you can, I don't know if I can get into there, but you can see galvanized steel. These are going to set up my cold frames. If you're going to build a cold frame, in my future videos I'll show you how I, take care of this and put it together. For a cold frame, you only want it to be maybe 1 foot to 2 feet off the ground. You don't want to go too high because you could have more space in there, more room for cold air. But you're just building a 1 or 2 foot side, usually at an angle, and then you put some sort of plastic across the top. You're going to want that to be UV protected plastic, UV, ultraviolet protected, so that the sun doesn't break it down. But I have 1, 2, 3, about 4 different kinds of cold frames I'm going to be making, and this will allow you to grow the cool weather crops really through I probably could get through the whole winter here, unless I get consecutive days of low 20-degree temperature. But the cool weather crops can freeze and it can be okay. As long as the cold frame takes care of the root system and the root system doesn't freeze out, you're going to get greens through the winter. Let's go back over here to more of the raised beds. Started some plants from seed right in there. That is spinach, carrots right over there, and I dropped in a grapevine on each side. Now this is kind of an experiment because it's out in the open. There's no fence. We're going to see if deer or rabbit come and bother these plants. And this section is pretty much flowers. I do have lavender. I'll be using lavender actually. I'll be making my own gin next year. I just started actually practicing that using hops and juniper berries. But I'm going to be doing more cooking, more creating with everything in the garden. This year was really for me to see if I could get everything where I want it to be, get it growing, and it's really taken off. So again, it's September 23rd, and the garden still looks like it's August. Even better, because there's no signs of disease or drying tomato leaves or anything like that. We'll get in there and walk around. Just did a couple videos on this. These are the fall crops that I'm growing in flower boxes. They're all doing really well. Love growing arugula this way. They seem to not get insects. They grow well. Water-soluble fertilizer every 7 days. And look at these massive radishes in there. Second wave of the cool weather crops and flower boxes. And you could really just have a garden this size. You don't need this massive garden if you don't have the time or you don't have the room, but you can get all kinds of great leafy greens. Now we're coming into the garden, and if you were looking at this, you'd be like, well, it's not fall. This is, midsummer. I mean, it's just going crazy. Okay, let's walk into here. So we'll get to the other side in a second. The blueberry plants that are all along here, doing really well, nice and green, tons of growth. These were actually moved from my old home in January and dropped in here. So you can plant blueberry plants, Maryland Zone 7, when it's cold. They do pretty well. They establish, the root systems stay intact. So if you're starting to see the blueberry plants on sale, you can start picking them up, get them into the ground, and come next year they're going to look something like this. Same thing, those are blackberry canes back there that I took from my house, transplanted here in January. They're doing really well. Now the blueberry plants that you see that are dead in that space, They were bare roots and they started out really well, but when the heat of August came, they got really beat up. So I did just drop in new plants right there and back there that I picked up. And hopefully some of these that look dead have root systems that are working well and the plants come back. Another tip I have is in this space, you can see a lot of grass and weeds, but I also throw down cilantro seeds, dill seeds, and I just let them come up and I use them as they pop out throughout the garden. So when you have a space like this, it doesn't have to be perfect mulch. Throw in some of your herbs that you use and they'll grow and you'll be able to harvest them over time. Spin around here. Some of you may know I work with All America Selections. I create content on their channel. And one of the tomatoes that I just profiled, I profile all of the AS winning seeds. About 25 a year. That is a Firefly. You can see the beautiful yellow tomatoes, a nice crack resistant variety. Working with All America Selections, we're going to be doing a contest where you can win seeds and things to grow an All America Selections garden, and I'm also going to be a mentor, which means the 3 people that win the prizes will have me as a mentor for the year. I'll put that information in the video description today, and you can start signing up if that's something you're interested in. The official rules are going to go out this week on their Facebook page in their group, and we are trying to promote brand awareness for All America Selections. So sign up for the different groups because we're going to be picking winners in part from there. That's okra growing there. I'm going to show you the okra I planted back in May as we get to the end of the video. I'm really amazed with that plant. These are tomatoes I put in May, still producing. I mean, right about at this time, usually I've yanked everything out of the garden. I'm turning beds. I'm getting ready, you know, for the fall. The cool weather crops go in, but really getting the beds ready for next year. That is a GreenStalk tower. I'm also doing a giveaway for that. I'll put that link in the job description, and that's just a matter of going to their site, signing up, and you can actually win this five-tier tower. I have 3 of these. I just set this up for the cool weather crops. I use the mesh to keep insects off because I come over here, I just pick the leaves. I don't want to be eating any kind of chemicals, even if they're organic. Dropped in kale, all that kind of stuff. This is my second wave of okra, and you can see that it's doing really well. Beautiful plant. I'm going to be making hedges with this, so around my property to block out the road and different things. I'm going to grow okra. I can eat it, and it looks really, really attractive, I think. Here is one of my favorite parts of the garden. Oh, and a mistake too I wanted to show you. So right in here, the beans, I mean, they're beautiful. I like the trellis, but they've grown right into, here's some leaf spot. That usually comes with the cool weather, but they'll be okay. They've really mixed right into the tomato plant. I can't even walk through there, but I just like this space in the garden. One of the things that I've talked about in other videos are the trellis designs, and this is a nice design when there's no tomato plants for it to grow into. These are Christmas beans. And you're able to walk through, and that would be the ultimate goal. You can see this massive tomato. This is the Jasper, I believe. That's an All America Selections winner too. And I've just been harvesting day after day off of here. Extremely prolific, highly recommend it. I could control this, but I know that the frost is coming, so I'm just gonna let it go. Still getting tomatoes. So these poles that I put in that are on rebar were great, except I planted the sunflowers next to them, and then the beans naturally grabbed onto the sunflowers fell over, everything's getting pulled down. And I really did, you know, fall is the time to kind of look in your garden and look at this space. If I spin around, I mean, I overplanted this. It's shading out areas. It's beautiful, I like it. But strategy next year is, for one, this space is going to be the cattle panel I've been talking about. But these poles will get put towards the back of the garden so they don't cast any shade. The sunflower seeds are all going to get put on the outside of that fence or near that fence so that they're over there. And I'll be able to open this up more, keep the airflow going, and just be able to manage it better. But I am shocked that we're so late into September and everything is still growing. More tomatoes. These are All America Selections Chef's Choice Series. Just, I mean, look. Growing, growing, growing. This tomato hedge is out of control. Mammoth sunflowers did really well. But, you know, I mean, just look at what's happening here. Another wave of cucumbers in. I'm going to see if I can get those to production. Using the garden mesh, this is all my cool weather crops. Broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, you name it. It's growing in here, doing some experiments. Eggplant, that'll all be harvested this week and given away, doing really well. It's 7:30, so you can see I've got some dust maybe on those leaves. Still getting flea beetles. I'll be washing that all off shortly after this video. Here's the tomato hedge that I packed in, I don't know, 10, 15 tomato plants. It's just out of control. No disease. I expected this to get 8 or 9 feet tall, and it's just everywhere. So next year, lesson learned, I won't be doing this. I'm grateful for the success in all the tomatoes, but that's just too much. I don't know what I was thinking. I still suffer from, oh, the plants are small, they're cute, you can pack them in there. But if you want to grow a tomato hedge, it's possible. We're just going to cut back on the number of plants that we put in there. In these containers, I like walking through the garden and giving you all ideas. These don't have the bottoms cut out. These are about 20, 22 gallon containers. Kale, 2 types. Broccoli, cauliflower, right in there. Collards, more broccoli, or I'm sorry, more kale, and I think I have another round of broccoli growing in there. I have not been able to grow broccoli well. It always gets too hot when I plant it in the spring, and they start to flower and the heads don't really form. So I'm hoping coming from August into the cool weather, things do much better. And then we'll wrap up over here. I did want to show you something that I think is really important with this mess in the bucket. These are basically raised beds you can purchase. There's no bottoms in these. This was all shredded hardwood. I put dirt in when I planted the plants. This is a combination of dirt and shredded hardwood, and you can see they're doing really well. This is a fire ring you can purchase. There's no bottom in that either, and you can drop that in. There are, I think, 4 pepper plants and the Chef's Choice green, a nice green tomato. That's ready to be picked, and it's beautiful. Nothing wrong, no blemishes on there. And again, let me get distracted even more, then we'll go back to that bucket. That is a place I was growing tomatoes in the GreenStalk Tower. Again, you can win one of these towers. Check out the description. And what I learned from this was I didn't need to put as many indeterminate varieties in there. Basically, I started them in the bottom, and then I tucked the vines up as they went up to let them root into the different levels, and they're doing extremely well. Now they're getting some help with the fence. You know, lesson learned. Don't need as many indeterminate varieties in there. Probably just need one. And then I just planted this yesterday from transplants. More greens. That's actually flat head cabbage in the back there, and then more lettuces. And oh, you know, that's what happens when you get old. You get distracted. We're still going to get back to that container because it's important. Let me come around here. This is my okra. This is the okra that I planted back in May. It's, you know, almost 12 feet tall. Let's see if I can get through here. But what I was really amazed with, and I've only been growing okra maybe 4 years, 5 years at the most. I was late to really appreciating how delicious it is. Look at these plants. I didn't know that this was starting to become woody, and it's growing out more. I wonder if we lived in a milder climate here than Maryland, that this wouldn't freeze out and it would keep growing and you could cut it back, because it's starting to grow out from here, just branches everywhere. But I love this plant. It's probably one of my top 5 places just to come and look at, and you know, I spend time just pushing on it, saying, wow, look at that, it's wood. But just for the idea that I can see it transition from the bottom, change over, and then it's still producing like crazy going up. I'm going to be saving these seed pods and just randomly throwing the pods around all along the edge of my woods over there and see if I can just get, you know, okra to be growing regularly over there. All right, let's walk back down to this area because this is really important and this will save you money. If you're buying the agricultural fabric that you just saw, ag fabric, garden insect fabric, or you're buying covers to cover your crops to protect them from frost, make sure you spend the extra money and buy a product that is 100% UV protected. This had no UV protection. UV is ultraviolet light. So within about 60 days of the sun beating down on this, the sun has ultraviolet rays, so the UV rays from the sun hit this product and it basically degrades it and breaks it down and it's completely useless. There's no value in this. If if this was $10 less, 60 days later it's destroyed, you wasted your money. So make sure, whatever, it doesn't really matter the product name, but just make sure you're buying any kind of fabric that goes into your garden like this. Make sure that it has the UV protection on it. And you want to make sure that it's a high-end UV. And you can do that by just doing a little bit of research, reading about it, reading comments. This should last for years. And that's what you want. Spend a little bit more money, get a couple years, 3 years worth of use out of your fabric. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out the descriptions for the contests. And I'll see you again on the next vlog in about a week or 10 days.